All right, so Umbrella Academy Season 2 drops today. We've been waiting for so long, and you've already binged through it. Day 1. You're not going to wait? No patience? Don't worry. I would have done the same thing. You're also probably thinking, okay, why is this video out so early? I actually had the chance to watch it about a week ago, so I've been working on talking about the ending of Umbrella Academy Season 2. That's what today's video is all about. Obviously, spoilers, do I have to say? I mean, it's ending explained, so we're going to talk about the ending, but we're also going to talk a bit about the build-up to that final episode, and then dive deep when it comes to those final moments and how we wrap this season up, what Season 3 is going to be about, and if there is a connection to the original material created by Gerard Way. Who else is a My Chemical Romance fan, by the way? 8th grade me was just, like, going crazy to teenagers. Although I am more of a fan of Welcome to the Black Parade. Okay, let's get into it. So just a quick recap of the events leading up to the final episode. Our team of siblings, they are scattered all throughout the 1960s. We pick up in the first episode right after the finale of Season 1. I guess technically during the finale, and we see that each of them, they're ending up in a different year throughout the first 3 years of the 1960s, starting in 1960 with Klaus and Ben just kind of wandering around thinking, how did we get here? How did 5 mess this up again? As we progress, we see each character, for the most part, in a different year. Luther in 1962, Diego with this strange obsession. All right, JFK, we're going to stop this from happening, which sets so many things in motion. Vanya being hit by a car, meeting some very interesting individuals that we'll talk about a bit later. And of course, the moment that everyone was able to see a bit early as they released that scene 5, seeing the apocalypse happen again. What did we do this time? What have the Hargraves been up to? My goodness. Well, that scene, by the way, the perfect choice of music, an incredibly epic sequence of events, seeing our characters utilizing their full powers. Klaus with the army, the ghost army. Come on, guys. Come on. I'm geeking out. Okay, I need to calm down. We get into the episode prior to the finale where we're really setting up these major events that are about to happen. Oh, also, the handler is alive. I guess that's pretty important to talk about. The handler is alive, which doesn't help things. So let's pick up with Luther in both versions of 5. We have our version, and then we have the version right before he travels to the future at the beginning of Season 1. So before he gets stuck in this young body, therefore he's old. There are multiple sequences throughout this episode that are hilarious between the two as they are experiencing a few hilarious plays on time travel difficulties since they are so close to each other. They're going through different stages, and finally we get an interesting fight scene as they genuinely have the audience a bit worried. Okay, is our 5 not going to make it? Will he be replaced? Let's see what happens. And in that same episode, after finding out that Lila is actually the quote-unquote daughter of the handler, or at least the adopted daughter, she says, listen, I put you in charge of Diego and you allowed this to happen. You have to make this right. And it's almost that subtle manipulation that we see in films and TV shows within these kinds of relationships where basically under her spell, under her control, because she believes pretty much anything that he or she says. In this case, Lila's going to believe everything that the handler tells her. While all of this is going down in different locations, we see Ben try his best to get to Vanya as she is just wreaking havoc and destruction all throughout this area, and we see these were the events that looked as if they were leading up to the apocalypse that we see at the beginning of the season, but luckily, Ben is able to have a conversation with her, tell her to tell Klaus that it wasn't his fault that he stayed away from the light, and then Ben disappears, which looks as if it's the last time we're going to see this particular version, and that in itself is heartbreaking. It was such an incredible moment between two siblings, and it really put things in perspective for Vanya. And then yet another plot thread. Lot of different subplots going on, but they are all genuinely interesting. We do have the showdown between Sissy and the manipulative man trying his best to take Harlan away from her. And that showdown ends in an interesting way as we see Harlan's powers come to light. Rest in peace to the mean dad. Mean dad is dead. Bye-bye. We cut to Reginald as he's extremely upset with what happened with JFK. By the way, did anyone mention... I haven't mentioned it. I'm the only one talking. Reginald is an alien. I mean, it was hinted at in Season 1 and revealed in the comic book, so we should have seen it coming, but that was a very interesting moment that they're definitely going to expand upon since he's back in the next episode. So at the end of this episode, Old Five is gone, Harlan's going crazy in the barn, the animals are probably freaking out. If there are animals, I don't know. Ben turned to dust, poor Luther's crotch probably hurts, a lot of bad things. So let's get into the final episode. We open with an extremely interesting funeral scene that we've seen chunks of before, as Reginald is essentially blaming some of the members, these young children, for the death of Ben. They weren't able to step up. Yet another example of the way that they were raised. We also see the conversation between Ben and Klaus, which was really interesting, where Klaus, who clearly loves his brother, says, hey, why don't you stay for a while and refrain from going towards the light. So it was nice to see that finally play out on screen. Then we cut to modern day? Not really. We're going back to the 60s, which is essentially modern day. And we see, and this is something that plays in a bit later, that the timeline's changing, man. And here's why. We see pictures of our characters on screen, wanted after the death of JFK, and we don't think anything of it at the time, but we see later on how it actually changes the timeline. Vanya says, listen, something's going down with Harlan. I have to fix it. I'm the only one that can. But of course, her siblings, the Hargreaves family, they're going to assist her no matter what, because that's what family's all about. Except Sissy has a gun. Sissy has a gun, and she says, you're not getting close to my kid. It does take some convincing, but Vanya is trying her best to calm him down as he's just slowly destroying everything around him. But then something a bit more complicated happens as the handler shows up with Lila, and not only these two individuals. This is something we always see in superhero movies and TV. Oh, there are 7 of us, but only 2 of you. And as soon as that happens, yeah, they show up. I mean, everyone shows up. Now, something that we haven't mentioned yet, we haven't talked about, is the fact that Five, getting orders from the handler that Lila doesn't know, actually killed her parents. He also killed the entire board of directors. You know, it's inadvertently his fault, but Five did a lot of damage this season. So it looks like our team is outnumbered until Vanya comes out and says, no, listen, I am the most powerful person you could imagine. Wait a second. We see Lila take on the exact same power set as Vanya. How is she doing this? Does she have the same powers as Vanya? It turns out that she can actually mirror one power set at the time. We see her do this with Vanya, with Allison. It's interesting and unexpected, not knowing that she is actually a sibling. Wait, what? There are more than 7? Yeah, turns out there are more than 7. But hey, back to some sweet action scenes between the Hargreaves and Lila. Meanwhile, the handler is trying to perform the same trick that she did on her previous child, manipulation and bringing him in to be her pawn, to be her tool of destruction, while the Hargreaves are slowly learning, oh my goodness, maybe there are more of us, more than 7. So now the goal is to get her on their side. Do a bit of sweet talking as Diego does, Five telling her that the handler was the one that gave him the kill order, everyone trying their best to convince her because she is powerful, but can she take them all on at the same time, only being able to mimic one of their powers? We can be your family, as they say, as the tides slowly begin to turn. Things are looking up for our heroes until freaking Rambo comes in and just shoots everyone and kills them. My goodness, that was unexpected. So yeah, the whole family's dead, and we're all thinking it. The only one that can get us out of this situation, as always, and this is something I was a bit worried about, is he going to be able to do this all of the time? Well, that is Five. Not dead yet, just a little bloody, using his time travel in an epic scene, slowly rising and going back to that moment prior, as they are able to stop the handler from causing the damage that she does. Now, in the prior version, one of the members of the Swedes, the lone assassin remaining working for the Commission, takes her out. He comes in this time around, sees Allison, and we're all thinking the same thing. Oh no, yet another showdown. But he and Five simply look at each other, exchange glances, And that is that. And that is when things honestly begin to look up for our heroes. Harlan is a lot more calm. Herb tells Diego and Five that he is now the acting chairperson as they look for replacements for the board. I love his dialogue throughout the show, by the way. He's hilarious. And he says to them, pick your suitcase and return home. So from there, we get an emotional sequence of events as our heroes are saying bye to their new / now old families and friends that they met in this timeline. Ray reads the note that Allison wrote for him. Vanya and Sissy say an emotional goodbye. Now, I have a feeling this isn't the last we've seen of Harlan. There is a good possibility that obviously his older self comes back eventually, because someone that powerful, well, something had to go down. Klaus is holding his dog tags close after trying his best to stop the man that he loves from enlisting, but inevitably, it happened. It looks as if all of the events that were supposed to happen happened, even though, again, there were a couple, more than a couple, a lot of things changed about the timeline. But hey, look, the family is home the day after the apocalypse, walking around the mansion, seeing all of the things back to normal. Wait a second. What is that? Is that Ben? Why is Ben above the fireplace? What's going on here? Oh, look, Dad's home. Oh, hold on. Dad's home? That is indeed Reginald, as Luther tries his best to play it off and say, nothing, it's just nice to be home. And in the line that I believe is going to shake up every fan's mindset towards this ending, he says, this isn't your home. And instead of acknowledging that this is the Umbrella Academy, Reginald says, this is the Sparrow Academy. Pardon my French, but what the All right, let's all take a second, just take a break and try to gather ourselves before we dive into what does this mean? Well, this is the Sparrow Academy, and as we see the shadows of these individuals, I believe not yet cast, or at least at the point when they were filming, this is not our team, this is not the Umbrella Academy, and Ben is the only lone remaining member in this alternate timeline. Creator Stephen Blackman says, I knew before I even started the season how I wanted to end it. So the goal was to write towards that, and that goal in itself was a wild one. I mean, we all knew there would be repercussions, but nothing on this level. So who are these people? Who are you people? What's the Tesseract doing in this universe? What's going on? So if we look into the actual comic books, there are actually 43 children born with these special powers. So we can assume that Reginald, after being told in the 60s that he would gather our team and get them together, it's a lot different than X-Men Days of Future Past when Xavier did what he was told he was going to do. Reginald says, nah, I'm probably going to do something that's not going to screw things up so badly, so it looks as if he gathers a completely different team with a completely different name, except, of course, Ben. Now, Ben looks a tad bit different. He has a scar on his face. We can't assume much about this new cast of characters, but we can see kind of their debut in the graphic novel, and that is the Umbrella Academy Hotel Oblivion, which is the third book in the series. The first two seasons were based off of the first two books, which makes sense. Now, Hotel Oblivion, the story as a whole, is a very different story than what Season 3 looks to be going into. Now, in those comics, that group actually had a connection to Mom, and she did play quite a role in Season 2, at least an unexpected role, when she learns that Reginald has been lying, but we do see Reginald there, so the Sparrow Academy is probably just another version of the Umbrella Academy, which is a bit of a switch-up. Now, in that book, we do meet the Sparrows early on, but their debut as a group happens at the end of Hotel Oblivion. So what's going on in this book? Well, there is a pocket dimension full of supervillains. Those prisoners are released, and they begin to wreak havoc on the world, which does somewhat bring up another apocalypse. Could this be the apocalypse for Season 3, or are they going to refrain from hitting a storyline like that again? So the ultimate theory tells us that the Sparrow Academy is going to start out as somewhat of the anti-Umbrella Academy, and maybe there's a possibility that they team up by the end to take on the ultimate villain, or villains if there is indeed a pocket dimension carried over from the comic books. Now, in those books, we hear the leader of the Sparrows call Luther brother, and one of the others says family when speaking to Vanya, so we do know that all of these siblings, 43 in total, were most likely born with different circumstances on October 1st, 1989, at the same time. Now again, all of these things being said, that doesn't mean that Netflix is going to follow this to a T. They've strayed away from multiple elements of the comic books thus far, but it looks like that underlying storyline is going to remain intact. The fact that there is now somewhat of an anti-Umbrella Academy, and our team is going to have to fight for their right to be who they were meant to be in this timeline. Also, the leader of the Sparrows calls himself number one. So it'll be interesting to see what their power sets are, who this new team is, if we discover all 43 members of the family, how Lila is going to come back in the next season, if the handler is actually dead this time, will Harlan return, and will the Sparrow Academy follow a similar storyline from the comics? And what's up with this prison, this dimensional prison? We've actually yet to see the team face off against another super-powered super villain, so that could be interesting. Sort of a Batman v Superman. They're going to team up at the end to take on Doomsday. That could be cool. But hey, enough geeky references. Enough of this. You guys saw Season 2. I would love to know your thoughts and comments down below. Did you enjoy it? What did you think about that ending? Were you as blown away with this season as I was? Were there a few storylines that didn't necessarily work for you? There were a couple of times where I had issues, but if you want to check out my spoiler-free review, it is on my channel right now. Thank you guys so much again for watching. If you'd like to see more Ending Explained videos, let me know by smashing that thumbs up button. I just did one for the new Transformers series, Siege, and I would love to do more. These videos are so much fun to make. You guys are truly the best. I appreciate you for watching. Stay tuned. More to come. All right. I'll see you later. I'm going to go watch it again. Season 2.